welcome to the channel. Yours truly, Rich from My Babies Apiaries. We're located in West Palm Beach, and thank you for joining me once again. Well, the season is halfway through, and still have some honey left over to harvest. Haven't gotten around to harvesting all, but just some quick updates. The yard down in Delray Beach is coming along out of 2 swarms I installed down there. I got one going, one took off. I blame myself for that because usually I'll close them up once I put them in the box and let them out in about 2 days, let them get comfortable and situated with the box. And normally they stayed. Now, the one that stayed, that's exactly what I did with them. And the one that left, I just threw them. It was late in the evening when I got the call to collect the swarm. And so what I did, I just got down there at dark, threw them in there, didn't close them up, went back like 2-3 days, and there were like a handful of bees in there. So I knew that they had taken off, no queen. Now the hive that's there, they have a queen. I actually looked in there, I saw the queen, saw some cap pupa in there. So I just closed them back up, put some more sugar water on there and leave them alone. So I'll let them go for about a month before I go back and check them, just make sure everything's good. But I haven't been receiving a lot of questions. So that's why my video production has been down. So if you want videos, you have to send me questions about things and I'll make videos about them. So what I've been doing is just like I say, educating myself more and more about bees. And that's one of the things I recommended in my first video of do you want to be a beekeeper? You know, I went through some things that you should suggest, you know, especially cost and your property, how big your property is. Do you have enough space to keep bees? You know, and beekeeping is not cheap. You know, it's a little bit pricey. Also, what I have here, brought in one of my books I wanted to share with you. Really good book, and it's called Honeybee Democracy. And I would recommend this book to you, and it's written by Thomas D. Seeley. And what this book talks about, just a couple of things, there's more in there. It talks about how bees communicate, and like, for instance, the swarms that I collected. It talks about how the bees make the decision to find a new home. So let me go through a swarm. When bees get overcrowded in the hive bodies, they decide to swarm, to leave the hive, and they take the old queen, or sometimes they'll swarm with a virgin queen, but most of the time they'll swarm with the old queen, and they'll go and they'll find a branch that's close by their home, and they'll land on that branch, and they'll sit there for a while, and they'll send out some scout bees. So what the scout bees does is they'll go out and try to find a new home for that group of bees that has just swarmed. So they'll send out a couple of scout bees, and they all come back, and they'll do a waggle dance in the swarm to show where the new location is that they have found it. And then guess what? About 5 or 6 more bees come back, and they do the same thing. So now the bees have to form a democracy to find out and make a decision as to which scout bee has the best cavity for them to go inhabit. And so that book goes through some of that. It goes through, you know, orientation flights, what the bee does, what the waggle dance signifies. You know, when the bees find a bountiful source of nectar, they'll bring some back to the hive, and then they'll do a waggle dance. And what that waggle dance does is it gives direction to where that nectar source is. And so it explains how that waggle dance is done and what it means, what degree of the sun and direction. It's just very fascinating. These bees are very intelligent. So I would recommend that as a book of education for you to educate yourself. And that's called Honeybee Democracy. I have about 2 other books. One is called Backyard Beekeeping. You know, they go through some things and challenges that you'll run into, some pest diseases, uh, treatments and stuff. And those are things to get ahead of before you get bees. You want to read up and know what to do. So by the time you get your first package, your first nucleus, or whether you capture a swarm, you want to be ready. You want to have equipment. You want to know what to do, how to get them in there. You know, you close the doors on them. You leave the doors open. Do I take a frame of brood from another hive and put inside of that box to kind of, you know, lure them in there and keep them there? You definitely want to have some drawn comb, you know, some empty comb that you're not using. That's a good start to put in there. So these are things that you have to learn and know before you start beekeeping. And that'll help you to not become frustrated, because the worst thing you can do is get a package of bees and you don't know what you're doing. You don't know what you're looking for. You don't know what you're looking at. You don't know what the bees are doing. You're just watching bees in the box go in and out, and you have no idea what they're doing. That can be very frustrating. So, you know, that was my point, is to educate yourself, to get educated and learn what needs to be done and what not needs to be done with your bees, because you can be too inspective. And what I mean by that is that you can conduct inspections too often. And what that'll do, you'll annoy the bees and you'll set them back, and they'll never get started at anything, because by the time they put something together, you're in the hive pulling it apart. They put it together again, you go in the hive, you pull it apart. You don't want to do that to your bees. You want them to get settled in. So this is all I have for you. You know, the only thing new I have, and I didn't take you along on that because I got no comments, no questions. So my hive that I had treated with the Apivar Life, I have to remember that name. It kind of slides me when I'm trying to think of that name. The Apivar Life, that hive has exploded very big. So what I've decided to do is, a hive like that, you want to keep those genetics in your bee yard. So let me tell you about some of the traits of that hive. That hive is very productive. I go out there and they're zipping in and out that door, lots of them at a time, and they're just in and out from sun up to sundown. There's no break. And that's the same hive I put a super on, and they filled up that super with nectar in 1 week. And now I'm almost ready to harvest that honey. That was around June, somewhere in the middle of June, and it's now July. It's the middle of July. And I'm ready to harvest that honey in August. They're actually capping it in. And if I wanted to, I can go out there now and take 2 or 3 frames out, maybe 4 or 5. But I'm just going to wait. So they are very good at finding nectar sources. I noticed that compared to my other hives. The other thing about that hive is they're very gentle. When I go out there and I open up the hive, I don't have a gang of bees flying around my head. So these are things you have to pay attention to. And these are the genetics that you want in your hive. So what I've decided to do is I put a second deep box on, and I'm going to allow them to draw out the frames and let the queen lay some eggs in it. Once the queen fill it up with eggs, what I'm going to do is take it, put it on the top of my hive, put a snail grove board underneath the bottom, and I'll open one of the side doors and let the queen go out. First, I'll let them make a new queen. Once they make a new queen in that box, because they'll be separated from the queen below. And once she get mated, I'll let her go out. And when I start to see eggs in that box again, then I'm going to take that box, put a bottom board on it, put a top, and I'm going to take it down to Delray to my other yard. And then I'll keep those genetics in that yard. And I'll probably, if they ever decide to build swarm cells, I'll keep those swarm cells and put them in a nucleus box and make a nucleus hive. So those are the things you have to pay attention to. Also, the genetics that's in your bee yard. If you got bees that's feisty and they always trying to sting you and fly around your head as soon as you open, you want to get rid of those genetics. Or if you want to requeen the colony, that's up to you. Or if you have bees that chase you to the front of the house and they're very defensive and aggressive, you don't want those genetics in your yard. So that's the only thing new I have. So that's about it for now, and as I always want to say, I want to thank all my subscribers for making my channel possible. We're not international. We don't get thousands of views, but the few views within the hundreds that I get, I appreciate you very much. So I know that I'm helping somebody. Somebody is being helped. So that's all I care about. I'm not trying to be this YouTuber famous guy. None of that crap. I really don't even have time for that because I have a full-time job. So beekeeping is my hobby, is what I do in my spare time. If works get slow, then I'll spend a little more time with the bees, or either I'll do some reading. Keep up on the things that's happening. They got a new mite that's headed this way. It's in Asia. And God forbid that it comes here. That's one more pest for you to fight off in your beehive. So anyway, all my fellow channel viewers, I just want to thank you again so much for joining my channel and being educated, by me. I'm a guy of education because education can take you a long way. If you learn what you're supposed to be doing, everything goes smoothly. If you don't, then frustrations will settle in. So, fellow beekeepers, until the next video, I just want to say peace, love, joy, and happiness always to you and your family. God bless you. Now, for those that stayed to the end of the video, I always give you a little extra cut to keep you watching the video all the way through till the end. Now, there's my hive I was just talking about, the one with the cream color, the white and the blue. And on top of it, I actually have a feeder underneath there with a jar of honey that I cultivated from a removal I was doing. And what that is to keep them from not using their honey inside of the hive to draw out those frames. So that beige colored frame or that beige colored box that's there, that's the one that I'm going to remove and put it on the top under the snail grove board. And I'll take that down and make a hive out of it. Now, if you watch that hive there, you can see those bees. They're just whipping in and out so fast. And the flow is slowing down a bit, but anyway, I think they're going to be a very productive hive. Just a month ago, That box only had one box on it. Now it has 3 boxes on it. So they are doing well. So thank you for staying to the end of the video, and I hope you have enjoyed this helpful information.